Wow, did I manage to screw that up? This is a lot deeper shelf than this side. So this is either too deep of a notch or this isn't deep enough. I might still be able to use it. See how it fits. I think where I got messed up was on the saddle. One full revolution of the saddle, or the Y axis, is 200 thousandths, not 100 thousandths. Whereas the knee, one full revolution is 100 thousandths. So, all right. Yep, looks like I messed up. This side is too deep. If I had cut this side to the depth that this side is at, I think it would have been perfect. As it is now, this is going to have more play in there than I wanted, but it's still going to work actually. So I'm going to soldier on. It is what it is, but I do have another problem, and that's that I'm not deep enough here on either side. So I need to take more off, which means I've got to raise this up higher in the jaws of the vise. Well, it turns out it was when I was on the back side, the cutter was on the back side, that's when I got the dimension wrong. Because when I put it back in the vise on the front side, it matched up with the shallower cut. So all I did was flip it around, and I took off enough material so that it would now fit in the slot there. That's why there's a ridge right there. So that where that you see that little ridge line right there, that's where this line should have been out to. But and then once I got this depth exactly where I wanted, all I did was take it out of the vise, flip it around 180 degrees, and made a pass. And now, I spoke too soon. All right. It's not that dimension that's wrong, and it's not that dimension that's wrong. It's actually this width. That little ridge of metal right there that I left probably would have been okay, except for the fact that because of the shape of the cutter, it's actually got a little slant to it, so it's wedging it. I got to take a little bit more off. All right, I took a little bit more off that little ridge that didn't belong. I'm getting... Well, hold on. Might be burr on here or something, hanging this up. Strange. It's almost as if that's not... I guess I'll just take that whole little ridge off and see what happens. Well, it took some fine tuning, but I finally got the fit I was looking for. Or close to it. You know, I was hoping that this was going to fit in here a little more snugly, but the reality is it's still going to be able to do the job that I wanted to do perfectly fine. It's not sitting proud of the top of the compound here, but I still left it as thick as possible so I'd have plenty of meat to give it some heft. And, you know, this width is good. It's not so tight that it's hard to get it in and out. So I think that's going to work out just fine. Alright, so now I've got to drill the hole. So this is the rod for the big Aloris tool post I'm going to put on that Vernon. And it's funny that whoever had this last, they just used a regular T-nut and then drilled it an oversized hole in it and threaded it, so you can actually see it's so, this post is so thick that the hole actually broke out the sides there. So this is really quite the, I wonder what the heck kind of lathe this might have been on. Such a small T-nut. This is a T-nut that came with the most recent tool post that I picked up, this old 4-way one. I could fit that. That's a more typical T-nut you tend to see. And this is my stainless steel overdone T-nut. Alright, so I mean, I could put this in the vise. I could use an edge finder, find the distance from here to here, cut that in half to find the dead center that way, and then do the same thing here to here. I'm not going to get that involved. I'm going to do this the old school way. I'm just going to scribe a line from corner to corner, and where they cross. That's going to be close enough to the middle for my purposes. Alright, so I scribed a couple of lines. It's probably not going to show up too well, and I use my automatic center punch to basically put a little center punch mark right there, and that should be all I need to start with a small drill, and then I'll work my way out to the size that I need. So I've got to determine, well, I got to take this off of here, because this thread down here might not even match this. So I got to start by taking this off of here. I'm hoping that this wasn't Loctited on there. Because I mean, that's what I was thinking of maybe doing on mine, was Loctiting this into there. But alright, so I just checked this with my thread gauges and found out that this is 14 threads per inch, which turns out it is the same on both ends. Just under 865 thousandths. Looks like it's 7/8, 14, but I better double check that. Well, this camera's battery is dying, but I just drilled the second hole, that diameter. I'm not sure quite what that is. We're just kind of going a little at a time here and reducing the speed every time. Seems to be drilling nicely. Boy, this sure makes a good drill press. Alright, the 13/16 inch drill bit I need for my hole that I'm going to tap for my 7/8 threaded rod. I can't get that, got the knee all the way down, and I can't get that in here and clear it with this chuck. So I'm going to pull this chuck out, and I'm just going to try and run that drill and call it. Alright, so the battery on the other camera died earlier, but I ended up finishing drilling this out. It worked out really nicely. So I think what I'm going to do now is, before I take this out of the vise, that's a really sharp edge, I'm going to deburr that edge. Actually, I'm going to leave it in the vise too. I'm going to deburr that edge, and then I'm going to figure a way to use the mill to actually help guide the tap in straight. I've got an idea how to do that. So first things first, let's get this. There we go. Just trying to avoid changing the XY position. This makes it easier. Wrong direction. Alright, takes care of that. Now, I'm gonna rig something up for the tap. Oh well, I guess I forgot to hit the record button, but alright, so that went pretty well. Yeah, it actually sticks out on the bottom, so can't thread it in that far. That's gonna work and all, but I actually wish that was a closer fit So on the chart that I used to figure out what size drill bit to use, there was another choice of drill bit size that I could have used that would probably end up making this tighter clearance than what I've ended up with here. Now, the other option I could do is I could screw this all the way until it bottoms out like that and it tightens up really nice, and then either shorten this rod in the lathe, or yeah, I'd have to do it in the lathe, but I don't know. I think maybe I should just leave it alone. I think maybe I will shorten that rod. Seems to be plenty long enough. Alright, I'll do that next time. Well, it's the next morning. I came down here to sort out what I'm going to do about this problem with this post. So the deal is that if I screw this all the way down as far as it'll go so that it bottoms out, I can't get this nut to go down far enough to actually clamp on this. There's about 1/8 of an inch space. Now part of that is because the threads are either galled, damaged, or something, so that this only tightens down to about there and stops. So there's actually a little bit more, but even if I was able to get it to go down to the end of the thread, it still wouldn't be clamping this tightly. So I'm going to have to shorten this post. Now, I was just going to shorten this end to the point where this would screw all the way down into my new T-nut. Problem there is that at some point these threads get pretty badly damaged. So the threads only come down to about where my finger is right here. Okay, and the threads past that are pretty much non-existent. So if I cut off the part that when I screw this all the way in that protrudes out the bottom, there won't be much thread actually grabbing that T-nut. So that's not good. So I was wondering whether or not I could flip this over. But then the problem is, well, then this big thick nut's not going to really be grabbing it. And so this post is kind of toast. The post is toast. So I have 2 of these tool posts. I already noticed that the nut on the other tool post looks brand new. So I'm thinking that other tool post might be in better condition actually overall. So let me check that situation out. Well, that's a heavy tool post. Well, it's decision time. I've got to decide which of these 2 tool posts I'm going to keep and which one's going to go in the auction block. Or for sale at the very least, whatever. So I just cleaned this one up a bit because there's some gunk on the top of it. First thing I noticed is, of course, that this one is missing the Aloris badge. Okay, but it's clearly stamped Aloris on the top here where it's supposed to be, so I have no doubt that this is a genuine Aloris. This one has the Aloris badge, and it's got a little bit of damage to it, but from a sales standpoint, this one might bring more just because it has the badge on it as opposed to this one. So that's a plus in the column for selling this one versus this one. This one, the handle feels good and tight, and it's threaded in all the way. Okay, and I can unscrew this handle. Well, it's funny, it stops, screws out part way and then stops. I don't know why. This one, I can't unscrew the handle, and it looks like I can see some of the threads showing here. So this may have had a problem with the handle head, may have stripped out or something at some point, and somebody may have done something to put that in there, because when I try and unscrew it, all I can get is the ball to unscrew, and I can clearly see right here there are teeth marks from a pipe wrench. So somebody was using a pipe wrench on this, and there are teeth marks down here also that have been ground off a little bit. Somebody was using a pipe wrench at some point to unscrew or screw this in. So that's kind of a negative on this one. as far as the wear goes, I mean, there are some nicks and everything here and there, but the actual wedges on this one look great. So that's a plus for that one. Whereas this one, well, actually this one looks pretty good too. It's got little black spots of like rust or something on it. So I don't know. This one's got a threaded hole here that this one, oh, they both have the threaded hole. If anybody knows what that threaded hole is for, I think it's threaded. If anybody can tell me what that hole's for on these Aloris tool posts, I'd be interested to know. The handle on this one, it moves freely, but it's a little noisy. So I think this needs to be taken apart, cleaned, and reassembled. This one is smooth as glass, and the wedges are moving up and down as they should. I guess I should get a holder and try clamping a holder on each one and see what happens. There's a big old Morse taper holder. That's definitely going to clamp on that one, no problem. We get the same thing here. This one clamps okay too, so they both seem to be clamping perfectly fine. Okay, the nuts on the top. This one, judging from the wear of the coating on this one, has seen a lot more wrenching on it as opposed to this one, which looks fairly new. So this is either a replacement nut, or this tool post didn't see anywhere near as much action. So we got that going for that. This is the rod or post that I have the damage on that's giving me problems. This one has a nice big T-nut, but unfortunately it wasn't the right dimensions for me to use on my setup. Interestingly enough though, that's nice and short, so I bet you I could thread this one in and have it bottom out in my new T-nut, so it's nice and tight. Overall length of this, well, there you go right there, mystery solved. This one's shorter. So I think I'm going to keep this one. Use this post, this nut, this tool post. I'm going to sell this. So this is going to thread into here until it reaches the end of the threads, which will cause it to bottom out and stay in there. So now this works the way I wanted it to. Now the only problem I foresee now is that I don't know if this nut's ever been that far down on these threads. Oh yeah, it has. Smooth as glass. Oh, I like that. Cool beans. Alright, so here's a I was like, why is that like that? And then I just realized, oh, that's because this is only designed to go on here like this on the front side. You wouldn't be putting this on this side. Why would you have a Morse taper drill bit facing perpendicular to the workpiece on a lathe? Well, I guess if you wanted to drill a hole into the side of a rod or something, I don't know. Anywho, so let's see if I move this over. The question is this gonna be a good height so that that could go dead center to what I want to drill? Oh, that looks pretty good. And this is just an answer to my question about whether or not this tool post was going to be too large for this lathe. So it's going to be functional. The only issue is it going to be too cumbersome? Some guys have mentioned that having this big of a tool post, you know, can be a little bit clunky. So again, I think a CXA would be just the cat's meow on this lathe. this size lathe, but I don't have a CXA. I have a CA. So that's what I'm going to go with for now. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot one thing. That with the 2 tool posts that I bought, I only got 3 holders. That Morse taper drill bit holder, a boring bar holder, and a drill chuck holder without the drill chuck on it. The special 90-degree piece. So essentially, I got a little bit of a problem here, which is that I don't have any holders that I can put actual bits in. Well, I think maybe I was thinking that I would buy those when I got to the point where I knew where this was going to work. Okay, so I think we're going to be alright. Now that I have this on here, the other thing I could do is I could bring this over right up to the, whoops, excuse me, right up to the chuck. And we can get a look at that. Alright, there we go, guys. The center point of the chuck is right about right there. The center line of the chuck is almost dead on center with the center line of the tool post. So I think we're good. Alright, time to start looking for some holders.